Hey, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead, and I'm ready to read Chapter 2 from the book, The Hair Pulling Bear Dog. So yesterday was Chapter 1, of course, and we got to meet DJ Dillon and his dad and his mom. And we know now that DJ Dillon has always wanted a collie dog. But his dad says no, they're going to get a bear dog so that they can catch old Satchelfoot, that bear that's been trying to eat animals that belong to people. So today's chapter is called The Hair Puller's Secret. All right, we're going to begin. Things got worse the next afternoon when DJ rode in his dad's old blue pickup truck toward Boot Maloney's place. Sam Dillon had gone about a mile up the winding, narrow dirt road when he rounded a curve and started across the sagging wooden bridge. Oh, I wouldn't like to ride up a sagging wooden bridge. That would be scary. At the same time, a big black pickup swung around a pile of boulders from the other direction. Boulders are really big rocks. The other driver kept coming, honking angrily. Honk! Honk! Dad slammed on the brakes so hard that DJ's head snapped forward. Only then did the driver stop. Dad yelled out the open window, "Don't you know nothing about mountain driving, mister?" The other driver was a big man with unshaven, heavy jaws. So jaws are right here. So he hadn't shaved through here. "I'm in a hurry. Back up and let me through." Dad's hair trigger temper went off. Remember, hair trigger means it just happens snap really fast. He leapt from the pickup and almost ran across the bridge. DJ started after him. Both doors on the black pickup opened. The big driver jumped out and his passenger trailed behind him. DJ stopped. He didn't recognize either person. The passenger was a boy who looked like he had just swallowed a gallon of vinegar. Oh, that would be so sour. He wore dirty bib overalls over his sturdy body, so he was kind of a big boy. His face was like a weasel, narrow and thin with bright, mean eyes. DJ figured him to be about 14 and full of fight. The boy made two fists and he smiled at DJ, but it was a hard smile. DJ swallowed hard. Dad yelled at the big driver, "You want to learn some mountain manners the hard way, mister?" The big driver's lips curled into a sneer. "Who's gonna teach me?" Before Sam Dillon could answer or reach the man, a hound barked from the back of the black pickup. Hounds kind of howl. Hoo! DJ saw the dog's long floppy ears and recognized the breed as a black and tan hound. The dog leaped to the ground and crashed off through the brush. So he just took off. Both people from the black pickup stopped and looked after the hound. The driver ordered, "Get him, Nails. If he gets away from us again, we'll never catch him." The boy called Nails ran after the hound. He yelled, "You gotta help me, Pop." For a moment, the man hesitated. That means he stopped for a moment. Then he scowled at Sam Dillon, who had stopped on the far side of the little bridge. The man said in a hard tone, "Me and you will meet again one day, Shorty." DJ's dad yelled, "Don't call me that. I'm Sam Dillon, and I'll whoop you good if you ever cross my path again." "I'm Tinsley Abbast, and I'll surely give you the pleasure to try. My boy'll take care of your kid too, for no extra charge." The man ran after his son. DJ sighed in relief. Dad waited until he was sure that Tinsley Abbast and Nels weren't coming right back. Then Dad got in the black pickup and backed it off the road. DJ listened to the Abbasts chasing the hound while Dad returned to the old blue pickup. DJ got back in and they drove on towards Boot Maloney's place. Sam Dillon squatted on his heel boots and asked Boot Maloney about Abbast. Maloney was an old bachelor with the most innocent-looking brown eyes DJ had ever seen outside of a Sunday school. Let me adjust this just a little bit. There we go. I think that's better. Dad had told DJ on the drive over that Boot was a snuff dipping. Now that is a snuff would be like chewing tobacco. Blah. Slick-tongued horse trader who'd skin you out of your eye teeth and then ask you for something more to boot. So he would make a really hard deal, and he would always try to get the best part of that deal. The trader also squatted on his heel boots before answering. "There are a couple of hard cases, father and son. Professional bear hunters, they are. Tinsley Abbast told me he'd come in from Jawbone Ridge to collect the bounty on the outlaw bear of Stony Ridge. He wanted to trade me that black and tan of his, but I didn't like the look in that hound's eyes. So Sam and DJ, you're getting the pick of my trail hounds." Dad got up and began checking 7 hounds chained in the shade of Boot Maloney's sagging red barn. Dad commented on the poor condition of the hounds' pads, that's the bottom of their feet, which had been badly cut from running in rough country. The hides showed old scars and some fresh wounds that they'd got from bear fights. Boot Maloney wouldn't say who he'd traded with for the hounds, but he said they were real trail hounds that wouldn't run trash like deer, but only varmints like coons, mountain lions, and bears. DJ thought they were the sorriest looking bunch of hounds he'd ever seen. The boy looked around the place where he'd often come when Dad needed to swap for something. Boot Maloney had just about everything. Most of it was junk. DJ saw rusted old logging equipment, like the cables used to set chokers, and we talked about that yesterday, and pull logs out of the forest after the trees had been felled. DJ's blue eyes took in some Swede fiddles, or two-man saws, they're called. Those were very interesting. I want to tell you about those. So those were saws. They were long, and there was a handle on one end and a handle on the other end, and it took 2 men. And one man would pull the saw towards him, and the other would push at the same time. So it would go back and forth when they were cutting a tree. And when my dad was growing up, they still used those. So those were 2-man saws. Everything was scattered in the now drying tall grass. Stacks of weathered scrap lumber and kegs of rusty nails were piled by dangerously near the leaning sheds. The boy's eyes came back to his father. Dad pointed. Boot, I'll take those 4 miserable-looking hounds off your hands so you won't have to feed them. Dad's stubby figure leveled on 3 hounds. A black and tan, a mixed red bone, and a blue tick. Those are all different names for hounds. And a mixture of bloodhound. What Boot called a Heinz 57 variety. Dad hesitated and then he added, and I'll take that female Walker, even though she's not much more than a pup and probably worthless. DJ saw Boot Maloney shake his head. Sam, you want my 4 best dogs. That black and tan is old Rock, my best cold nose. Maybe we better look up and see what cold nose means. I bet it says. And I'm wrong, it doesn't say. So what I think cold nose means is that after, like a bear or cougar has went through and it's been a long time, a cold nose can still smell and catch his scent. He can follow a bear's trail a day old, even in deep dust. The red bone and blue tick is called Thunder, a natural-born trail hound. That bloodhound and Heinz hound is Max. He's almost as good as old Pappy, the Pappy dog Rock, only he's younger. On top of that, you're asking me to give you Roxy, who's going to have her first litter of puppies? Dad interrupted. Take it or leave it, Boot. The trader slowly stood, towering, very thin as a ledge pole. He was a very skinny man. He looked down from his 6-foot height and said, Guess so, except, like I told you, I can't sell you my hair puller. Dad's hair-triggered temper flared. Don't go trying to jack up the price on me, Boot Maloney. Let's see that healer. DJ followed the 2 men outside the barn. The mountain boy was intrigued. He was interested, for he had been around hunters and dogs all of his life, but he'd never heard of a hair puller or a healer before. DJ heard a chain rattle. The contrast from the bright sun in the barn's deep shadows kept the boy from seeing the dog at first. Boot said, Sam, I really want to tell you why you don't want this here particular dog. He's only about 10 months old. And on his first bear hunt, Dad interrupted. I know your tricks, Boot. Dad turned towards his son. DJ, you've been wanting a dog. I'll give you this one. Dad, I don't want him. I want a collie. Dad broke in. What mixture is he, Boot? Oh, about half hound, so he'll hunt, a quarter Airedale, and a quarter Australian Shepherd, I'd say. Shepherds always go for the hind legs, you know. Natural for a healer, like this one. So a healer would be a dog that would go after, like if they were going after a bear, they would nip them at the heel, the back of their leg or foot. DJ saw the mutt run to the end of his chain. He was smaller than a hound. The dog stood on his hind legs, supported by his collar. His front legs scratched in the air. The mutt had a long, funny black nose that stuck out from his muzzle like a plum. on a thumb. Have you ever put a plum on your thumb? Or maybe you put an olive on your finger? That's what his nose looked like. He was sort of as reddish brown, and he was shaggy haired with a stump tail, very short tail. DJ decided he was just about the world's ugliest dog. Boots said, "Don't be fooled by that hair puller's powerful looks, Sam. He's not the dog you want." DJ covered his mouth so he could smother a snicker. The dog spotted DJ and began wiggling in pure joy. The mutt whined and danced on his hind legs, straining against his chain. He was shaking his stub-tailed body as though he'd break in two. "Look at that, Sam," Boot cried. "The hair puller has purely taken to your boy." Dad inspected the mutt's pads, remember that's the bottom of his feet, and felt him all over. Big scars were under his hide, Dad announced with satisfaction, still a little tender, not all the way healed. "Been in a bear fight not long ago, I reckon. Tell you what, Boot, I'll give you a hindquarter of that bear for this hair puller." So a hindquarter would be one of the bear's back legs and up to his hips, up to his waist, because some people eat bear meat. In fact, my son and his family all eat bear meat. Not me. Now, Sam, I don't want to go demeaning you none, but you ain't got that bear yet. Dad's contrary streak was showing. Remember, contrary means argumentative. "If I don't get that bear, then I'll give you one of my hogs when they're butchered." "Sam, you don't want this bear hair puller." "Don't tell me what I want," Dad snapped. "Deal or no deal?" "Sam, I call on your son to witness that I don't want to sell you this here particular dog." Dad roared. "I won't let you jack up the price 1 penny more. You want a deal or not?" Boot took off his grimy red-billed cap. "Well, Sam, since you're a-forcing me, okay, but what'll you give me to boot?" That's what his dad said they would do. On the bouncy ride back to the paved country road with the 4 hounds and the dog in the back end, Dad was happy as a bear in a colony of beehives, because you know bears love honey. He was explaining the various terms used for hounds. A cold nose or a pappy dog, he starts the trail. He goes after him first. When he gets running pretty good, you turn in the second one. He'll go at the first dog's baying, because that's what they do. Oh, 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 I don't know, something like that. After a while, you feed in the third hound that's to follow the first 2 that are already running. You can also let go of the 4th hound at the same time, or you can hold him a little longer. When they got the bear all lined up and maybe even looking at him, you turn out the 4th dog. That's the hair puller we got back there. But he doesn't necessarily run the other dogs. That's why he's sometimes called a cut-across dog or a turn-in dog. Some people call him a hair puller or a heeler or even a catch dog. Boy, a lot of names. You see, DJ, a hair puller's the best thing a man can have on a bear hunt. might even save your life. And he's bound to keep your other dogs from getting killed. Hounds are necessary to trail and tree a bear. To tree a bear means the bear gets scared and runs up the tree, climbs up the tree. Takes a hound's nose to run a trail. But in the fighting that sometimes follows before the hunter gets there, you need a fast little heeler that has no nose. He doesn't have to be good at smelling things, but runs to the sound of the fight. He's strictly a turn-in dog. Sometimes the hair puller will he'll smell the bear. Then the mutt will cut across, following the bear's scent in the air. This dog might be the first one to hit the bear. By then, the other hounds are probably wind running, their heads thrown up in the air like this and heading straight for the bear. With a hair puller, they'll usually put a bear up a tree. Maybe the mutt will hang on to the bear's hind leg until he's up 10 or 12 feet in the air before he lets go. Do you know 10 or 12 feet would be like if your dad had another man standing on top of his head, and the bear would be up that high before the dog let go and came crashing on the ground. But if a bear's too old or fat or too big to climb a tree, he'll back up against a log or a boulder or something and make a fight of it. That's when you can loose the hounds if you don't get there soon. Can lose your hounds if you don't get there soon, because the bear could kill them. So you need a heeler like this to keep the hounds from getting hurt until you can get there. You see, a hair puller always goes for the bear's backside, but a hound tends to go for the front of the bear. Naturally, that's the most dangerous part. Do you think that would be the most dangerous part of a bear? The front, where the mouth is and his front paws? So do I. So, if it wasn't for the hair puller always going for the other end and keeping that bear off balance, the hounds might all get killed. DJ listened with some interest in spite of his disappointment. His father continued, "A bear has a very sensitive backside. He can't abide, or he can't stand, having his tail feathers pulled." Do bears have tail feathers? No. So that's exactly what a hair puller does. He's so little and quick that he just keeps getting behind the bear and nipping at his hindquarters, while the hounds worry his head and shoulders. So they're bothering him up here, and that little hair puller, he's back behind him, nipping him. Then, DJ guessed, when the bear turns on the hair puller, the hounds close in again on the bear's head and sides. The mutt just jumps out of the way until the bear turns back to deal with the hounds. Then the hair puller dashes in again and tries to get a handful of bear hide near his tail. The bear is fighting on two fronts. He just keeps swapping ends, fighting the hounds, then fighting the hair puller. That way you keep most of your hounds from getting killed, and the hunter arrives with the rifle to get the bear. Dad took his eyes off the road and looked at his son with some surprise. "Maybe doing all that reading is doing you some good after all, DJ. Say, I got me an idea. Long as we're here on this road, let's drive into town and show the widow Higgins our dogs." Now remember, DJ's mom had passed away, and so his dad was now a widower, and they're going to go see widow Higgins. So that would be a woman whose husband had died. "Aw, Dad, Don't go there. We're going, DJ. And you be nice to that little Priscilla of hers, or I'll whang you a good one when we get home. You hear? DJ nodded miserably and he slumped in his seat. Grandpa Dillon had said the widow had set her cap for Dad. I'm sorry. But Dad said he wasn't going to marry Hannah Higgins. Dad had worked with her husband in the woods before he got killed in the logging accident. Mrs. Higgins was a good housekeeper who set a fine table. Dad always managed to show up right at supper time. So what do you think she's putting on her table? Yeah, food. Mountain hospitality required feeding visitors, DJ knew. But he'd have problems with the 9-year-old daughter. As always, she'd find a way to get DJ into some kind of hot water. And they say hot water means trouble. He had a right to feel miserable. Dad parked the pickup in the quiet side street and cut the wheels sharply to the curb so the truck wouldn't roll down the steep hill. DJ followed his father up the concrete steps to the neat white frame house with the green shutters. Dad knocked, and the front door opened. Through the screen, Mrs. Higgins' blue eyes opened wide, and she jerked her hand nervously to run it across her blonde hair. Right away, DJ knew something was wrong. He didn't know what it was, but he was going to find out. And that's the end of chapter 2. I hope you liked it. And I learned some things about hound dogs in this one. And the chapter 3, the next one will be a defender for the outlaw bear. Here's the picture. And remember, this is what DJ looks like. And there's old Satchelfoot. He looks very dangerous. So I just want to say good night to you guys. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you're enjoying this new story. I love you. And I want to pray that God blesses you and keeps you safe, and that you love him because he loves you so much. All right, you have a wonderful night. I'll be reading chapter 3 tomorrow. All right, good night.